In today's video on Food for Health, I want to talk about our best friends, our gut Gbiota. You may think your dog is your best friend, but your Gbiota is an even more faithful friend. It is totally dependent upon you for its survival, and it will do whatever it takes to keep you alive. And your Gbiota is intelligent. Maybe not as intelligent as you, but about the intelligence of a puppy. And if you are prepared to listen, it will keep you alive, slim and healthy. Of course, it is still just a puppy, but it is your puppy, and you can train it to work for you, so it works even better for you, and you can even change your puppy over time by changing what you eat. Young Fido can't force you to do anything, but is really trying hard to keep you fit and well, as though its life depends on it, as indeed it does. So it is pretty smart to listen to what it is telling you and not the sexy adverts that are trying to convince you that if you eat just one more energy bar, you will magically become a super athlete and beat all the world records. That is just a lie to make them more money. You and your Gbiota have very different types of intelligence. There are really two types of intelligence. There is mechanical intelligence and creative intelligence. I can get up from my chair, boil water, make myself a cup of coffee, climb a flight of stairs without spilling the coffee. If you were a robot designer, you'd be pretty impressed by that. But essentially, it is a mechanical solution to an old problem. Self-driving cars are getting pretty smart, and in many ways they are better drivers than humans, but they still can't decide if it's a nice day for going to the beach or the mountains for a picnic. That requires creative intelligence to imagine what it would be like playing in the waves or climbing the rocks, and even the very smartest computer cannot do that. And right now we're all in a bit of a mess which requires creative thinking. We are suffering from a major health crisis of chronic or non-infectious diseases which started some 50 years ago because of a change in our food. The average age at death used to be consistently and steadily rising. We were kept on living longer and longer, so it was reasonable to assume that things were going okay. Note the word average, a very simple statistics, which like much of the world of statistics can disguise the real truth. In statistics, we have a phenomenon called conflicting trends. Averages mask the front that we are winning on one front and losing on the other. Very convenient if you want to hide some nasty truths. On one front, we are certainly winning the war against infectious diseases, which until recently was the dominant killer. On the other front, more people are dying at a younger age from non-infectious or chronic diseases and are much less likely to be healthy in old age. The balance between infectious and non-infectious diseases has now changed. Life expectancy is declining. On average, we are dying younger and no longer enjoy robust health until death, but are becoming weak and frail in old age. And the reason is very simple. Our little puppy, our Gbiota, is the intelligent control system which very cleverly regulates how much and what sort of food we want to eat. Modern food is riddled with toxins and is lacking critical minerals and phytonutrients, which are progressively poisoning and starving our protective puppy. The root cause of modern chronic illness is the destruction of our gut biology, which controls what type and how much food we want to eat. I could well understand why many people, particularly the younger people, used to just ignore this as some problem for the old. After all, the young believe that they are invincible and will never get old, so they did not think of this as an issue which affected them. Now, even young people and children are suffering from chronic illness. They are getting fat and sick. But I came across a fact which really brought me to a standstill. Medical science is now finding that human breast milk is deficient in vitamin D, and they're now giving babies vitamin D drops so they don't end up as unhealthy morons. It is pretty scary to me, and hopefully to you, that our future generations should be put at such risk. What will become of humanity? Evolution is often described as survival of the fittest, but that is not quite true. Evolution is nothing to do with whether a particular individual creature survives. The test is whether the creature can have kids, who in turn can have kids. The evolutionary test is whether the species can achieve continuous reproduction. Young men are already experiencing declining fertility. We don't want to make it worse by females not being able to feed their babies. The good news is that when they put these young mothers onto a healthy diet with adequate fat and sunshine levels, the level of vitamin D in their milk rose back to the traditional and sustainable high levels, so the problem just disappeared without massive medical attention or money. Just eating healthy food. Lucky for those in the know. The current health epidemic is a totally new problem for humanity, which requires creative thinking. The first step in any creative thinking process is to challenge conventional thinking, in our case diet, food and health. I'm not going to get bogged down in this, as it has been done by many fully qualified doctors who are challenging conventional medical wisdom. I would recommend you read Lies My Doctor Told Me by Dr. Ken Berry. Not just an excellent book, but one which contains multiple references to books and papers from a broad spectrum of thinkers on diet and health. If that book does not get you thinking, nothing will. But let us look where we need to change our thinking. Let's look at history. Some 4 billion years ago, the Earth was formed and was just rocks. Then, no one knows how, but bugs appeared, and it started to break down and release the minerals in the rocks to start to form soil. We can still see this in the modern world with mosses and lichens. But these bugs could not photosynthesize, so they lacked energy, and the process was very slow, taking 1 billion years or so to produce a viable amount of fertile soil. But as soon as they had made enough soil, plants began to appear, and with their ability to photosynthesize and capture energy, there was an explosion of life on Earth. More bugs and other creatures evolved to break down plants and release energy, and then more creatures which ate the composting creatures, and then yet again more creatures which ate the creatures which ate the composting creatures. So life literally exploded on Earth. Life would never have occurred without the bugs. Bugs are good and totally essential for life. Then the first humanoid creatures evolved. Without doubt, our ancestors and us are the world's greatest omnivores. We try and eat anything, but we are not very good at it. Then we learnt about fire and developed cooking, which enabled us to digest a whole range of foods, and we became a global super omnivore, spreading across the globe and eating anything we could find. And, so the theory goes, that this abundance of energy we got from learning to cook enabled us to develop our energy-hungry brains, which are our dominating characteristics of our species. Fire and cooking totally changed our DNA for us to become omnivores. Our early ancestors moved about a lot. We didn't know whether they understood about hygiene or it was just for a new supply of food, but they kept on moving, sometimes just a short distance, sometimes amazing journeys. But as far as we know, they were relatively free of infectious diseases and were fit and healthy, but had a nasty habit of being eaten by larger and better equipped animals with bigger teeth. Then we developed agriculture, developing cities with large populations, which meant being stuck in one place. So we became particularly prone to infectious diseases, which could wipe out much of the population in various plagues. We may not have understood that we had created the ideal conditions for bad bugs, but we became terrified of plagues. Eventually, when we developed the microscope, we learnt about bugs and thought they were all bad and had to be killed off. We became very successful in protecting ourselves from these bad bugs, not by some amazing medical advance, but by engineering, building sewage systems and clean water supplies. But we are still scared of the bad bugs and take every opportunity of developing technologies to eliminate them. We became obsessed with bad bugs, and modern science developed some incredibly effective way of killing off bugs, like toxins and antibiotics. Unfortunately, much of this technology also killed off the good bugs, on which we are totally dependent and which will keep the bad bugs under control. The idea of ecological balance has been known since the days of Charles Darwin. It is a simple idea that the way to control bad bugs is to create the environment or conditions where the good bugs will outcompete and control the bad bugs. But we have ignored this simple principle and waged war against the bugs with great success until about 50 years ago, when things started to go bad for us. We were certainly winning the war against infectious diseases, but we created the new epidemic of non-infectious or chronic diseases. And the reason was that we are not just killing off the bad bugs, but the good bugs in our guts, which are our intelligent control system or friendly puppy. At first, it was the old people who suffered, but then things changed again. Now the young are beginning to suffer from these non-infectious diseases, a polite way of saying getting fat and sick, and it is now even affecting babies, with mums not producing healthy milk. You would have to be pretty cavalier to think our species is not facing a major problem. But there's one overriding question. For all those hundreds of thousands of years when we're eating anything we could get our teeth into, a wide range of foods from just plants to just animals or fish or some combination, sometimes in excess and other times in shortage, we were still fit and healthy throughout our life. As long as we avoided infectious diseases and being eaten by other animals with big teeth. Despite this wide range of unreliable foods, we still managed to remain healthy and spread across the globe to virtually every corner of the world which was vaguely habitable. Somehow we managed to control our food and our species grew to become the dominant creature on Earth. And how did we do that? Well, we know the answer. Our guts are more than a collection of bugs. They work together to create an intelligent system which controls how much and what sort of food we eat. Scientists have studied the phenomena of swarm intelligence, how a large number of very simple cells can work together to provide very real intelligence. We see this in bees, ants, slime molds, and many other multi-cell organisms. An endocrinologist may explain about all the various hormones like ghrelin, leptin, etc., which control appetite. But these are just the messenger boys. The real decisions are taken by our intelligent guts, and the system has worked wonderfully well for hundreds of thousands of years. It is a system which has been evolving over 70,000 generations, and evolution has got it right, so it really works. And this all changed in the last 50 years. Why? Now that is a question which we really need the answer to. We have a better understanding of nutrition than ever. There are many more nutritional scientists than ever, all no doubt dedicated, talented and humane people. In fact, if I wanted to poke fun, I'd point out that the number of nutritionists correlates almost perfectly with the number of overweight people. Actually, I would not be poking fun at nutritionists, but our misunderstanding of statistics and the errors from epidemiological studies. There is a simple functional explanation of why people are getting fat and sick. It is because we have screwed up our gut biota, our intelligent control system. The solution is to fix our intelligent control system, not look for some universal diet which will solve everyone's problem. It is really a question of how science works. People tend to assume that there is just science, a never-ending search for truth, but that is not how science works in the real world. There are two branches of science. There is pure science, where dedicated scientists work in some highly specialist area trying to reveal some underlying truth. By its nature, it requires a high level of specialization, so for that reason it is often referred to as reductionist science. Typically, there is no practical defined objective other than an in-depth understanding. But there's another group of people working in the science area who work in entirely different ways. These are the applied scientists. I am one of these, so I understand exactly how they work. Many years ago, I went to university to study engineering. I did not learn how to design cars, planes, domestic appliances. Rather, I learned a set of scientific laws, which are essential tools which you need to learn, and then we go out to design whatever machines the company we end up working for happens to be making. These tools are developed by the pure scientists and cover a range of technologies. For example, I had to study thermodynamics, machines and dynamics, strength of materials, hydraulics, mathematics and statistics, which is why I laugh so much about the epidemiological studies where a correlation of 20% is considered a breakthrough. If I, as an engineer, built say 5 bridges across a raging river and 4 of them collapsed, cascading many people into the river so they died, I would probably end up in prison for negligence. Yet statistically, I have achieved a 20% success rate, which we would consider a roaring success in the world of nutrition. The simple reality is that for the last 50 years, nutritionists have been trying to develop the perfect universal diet which will work for everyone, and it has been a total failure. However much money is invested into research, more and more people end up getting fatter and sicker than ever, with no sign of this trend ever being reversed. I show pictures from Ken Berry's book showing the appalling increase in overweight in the US. We are just not winning the war and should try a different strategy. And this strategy is to stop looking for the universally healthy diet and instead review our chest of tools and see how they can be used to help a particular individual. Anyone who looks at diet cannot but be impressed by the sophistication of tools from the world of biochemistry. Just take one single example, the role of chromium in managing blood sugar levels. There is no great magic in testing someone's blood to see if their chromium levels are satisfactory, and if not, advising them to incorporate broccoli grown in mineral-enriched soil. Volcanic rock dust, which contains a full spectrum of minerals, costs about $100 for a 10-ton truckload. So the few milligrams of chromium don't even cost a single cent. There's no need for expensive pills. But the most powerful tool of all is changing the Gbiota, which is best done by diet. Everyone has a different DNA and a very different Gbiota, so we should stop searching for that magic universal diet which will solve everyone's problem. We have tried that approach for 50 years and have gone steadily backwards, with more and more people getting sick from chronic illnesses than ever. We should simply accept the reality and let our gut do what it has been doing successfully for hundreds of thousands of years. Diet is far more effective and a much cheaper way of changing the gut biota than dubious pills. You don't even need expensive medical tests to determine the change is in your gut biota. You just need to understand the principles of ecological balance. It takes about 4 weeks to change your gut biota, and then learn to read what your gut is telling you. Learning how to change your gut biota is simple and inexpensive, and anyone can do it with a little bit of friendly support. Yes, it can be a bit rough giving up pizza and cheesecake for a month while your gut bacteria adjust, but a little bit of support goes a long way. In my next video, I'll talk about this process of tuning your diet to your individual needs by training your puppy. So if you don't want to miss it, just click the subscribe button and the bell symbol to get notifications. Or even better, subscribe to my mailing list.